In this part of the offseason, there's always talk about what teams can do to add to their roster, the draft, free agency. There are 6 players, 3 on offense, 3 on defense. The Cleveland Browns need to have a really, really strong offseason so they can help this team win in 2024. We'll talk about it. Your latest LockOn Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd keeps growing and growing. Make sure you're not left out of the party. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, as I said in the opening, this time of year, it's always about, what we can bring in, free agency, the draft, trades, of course. But there are some players on this Browns roster on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball who will be counted on in 2024. And some did make strides in 2023. Some didn't do much in 2023, but are going to need to do a lot in 2024. First and foremost on the offensive side of the ball. All of this comes down to Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun necessarily does not deserve to be mentioned on this, but the Cleveland Browns had limited Deshaun Watson in 2022. The Browns had limited Deshaun Watson in 2023, although I am one of the few that really thought that Deshaun Watson's play in 2023 was trending toward what the expectation was when the Cleveland Browns made the massive investment in trading off so many assets, committing so much money to this talented signal caller. I think he was getting there in 2023. But through suspension in 2022, through injuries in 2023, the Browns are probably no closer to the actual answer of what Deshaun Watson, a full season of Deshaun Watson, will look like. They have no idea just yet. And obviously major changes on the offensive side of the ball. Almost an entirely new offensive side of the ball coaching staff. You are going to tweak the system. Obviously, a lot of that is with the thought process of trying to make sure you are getting the absolute best possible position for success for Deshaun Watson. And it's not about trying to give him things because, he needs more. Deshaun Watson is a talented player, but the Browns have been smart, have been savvy with how they can manipulate the salary cap, how it's big money up front, smaller money up front, big money towards the back end, finding a way to turn that money into roster bonuses, to find a way to put out the most competitive roster they can going into every regular season. You're going to most likely invest in a veteran wide receiver, whether it is free agency, whether it is through a trade. You are most likely going to draft another wide receiver to bring in that room. You are most likely going to find some upgrades at the tight end position. So it's not just David Njoku. No knock on Harrison Bryant. Love Harrison Bryant. I love what he's done to this point. The Browns may be looking to go a little bit more bigger and bolder on the offensive side of the ball at the tight end position. Certainly the running game needs to be brought back to what the Browns grew through the first 3 years under the Stefanski regime, where the running game was their strength. It was their backbone. And they need to find some way where the running game is not a liability in 2024. I'm not sure they can get it back to where it was the first 3 years of the Stefanski regime, but it needs to not be a liability. It needs to be a little bit more to the forefront as opposed to what it was in 2023. Dawand Jones, and this isn't really, anything indicative of what Dawand Jones did not do in 2023. It obviously came on very quickly. Week 1, all of a sudden, Jack Conklin is out. And this is all we thought all summer is, when were we going to have an opportunity to see Dawand Jones after the fantastic summer he put together? Opportunity called very rather quickly for the Ohio State rookie. Became your starting right tackle. Flourished. Was a fantastic pass blocker. Put a onus on trying to make himself the best run blocker he can be. It's very, very difficult for a man of that size to have the maneuverability to succeed in run blocking. But Dawand certainly put in the work. And also, when you have linebackers who are probably giving up 120, 130 pounds, they are not fools. They are not fools. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure you don't get erased by a man the size of Dawand Jones. Why I mentioned Dawand Jones here is I honestly think, and I truly feel, the Browns will trade away Cedric Wills. It has been 4 years. He had 4 seasons under Bill Callahan. Always fought hard, always worked hard, gave everything he had, played injured. But to this point, he's just not part of the Cleveland Browns' future. And with the amount of money he makes, the Browns have an opportunity to probably save anywhere between $12 to $14 million in cap space. You can move Dawand Jones from the right side to the left side and probably get equal or maybe even a little bit better play for a significant savings on the cap. Jack Conklin should return to the right tackle position. James Hudson is still in the fold. And I do believe either through free agency or a high priority draft choice, the Cleveland Browns will bring in yet another offensive tackle and start to reset the clock on the money committed to the offensive tackle room. My third one, Cedric Tillman. And when the Browns made the trade for Elijah Moore and traded back, obviously involving that trade with Elijah Moore, then committed that selection to another wide receiver in Cedric Tillman. I think the Browns thought that they were recreating the future of the wide receiver room between Cedric Tillman. Moore, I think, had a good first year with the Browns. I expect obviously a lot more in 2024. Tillman, the things you liked were aggressiveness. He blocked well. He played hard. The things that were a little bit of a struggle for Cedric, and we saw this after the trade of Donovan Peoples-Jones, was trying to get acclimated into the passing game. And it's really hard when it's one quarterback this week, one quarterback the next week. The carousel of quarterbacks was not something that worked for Cedric Tillman. The playbook he came from in Tennessee was very thin. He didn't run a lot of routes. Cedric Tillman needs to spend as much time this spring working with the quarterbacks here in Cleveland, improving his route running. He's a big body receiver. This is something this team is probably transitioning to. It's a big year for Deshaun Watson, Dawand Jones, Cedric Tillman, big year offseason wise. We're going to continue here. We're going to talk about some guys on the defensive side of the ball that need to have a strong offseason. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Everybody stick around. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so many more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sports book partner of the NBA. We continue on here, your latest Locked On Browns. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate each and every one of you that make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd by now, make a new plan, stand, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, we spoke about 3 players on the Cleveland Browns who I think might be the most important as far as putting together a strong offseason. We're going to continue that theme. We're just going to put it to the defensive side of the ball. Cleveland Browns have a unique situation. They did so much work to finally put together in what my mind was a really good defensive line, a competitive defensive line, things that this franchise had not been able to do in years past. Issue is, is some of those moves did not hit. And when you make as many moves as the Cleveland Browns did last year in regards to the defensive line, certainly it makes sense that not everybody was going to hit. Some of these players will remain. Some of these players will be moved on from. There was a player at the defensive end position, in my opinion, who had a really, really strong year last year, and it kind of went underappreciated. Obviously, Miles, Defensive Player of the Year. We all know what Miles did. The Zadarius Smith move I liked at the time. And I think, Zadarius played well. I think we all thought the bar and the expectations were going to be a little higher for what Zadarius Smith was going to be able to do for this team in 2023. I don't think he necessarily reached what we all thought he could do. So we're in odd positions. Zadarius Smith is a free agent. Obviously, this is now a guy who's been with, obviously, the Ravens, the Packers, the Vikings, the Cleveland Browns. So there is no slam dunk to just say Zadarius Smith comes back on a lesser dollar amount to the Cleveland Browns. Agbanaya Okoronkwo, obviously a strong presence as a rotational defensive end last year, still under contract. Alex Wright. Second year Alex Wright last year. And as a rookie, forced into more playing time than I think anybody thought he was going to get. Similar in year two, with, of course, injuries, and obviously to Alex's own credit and his own development, his own work ethic, and the success he was having on the field created a pretty good problem for the Browns. Alex Wright had a 3-game streak of a sack in every game. Alex Wright is a smart assignment football player. My everydayers know we have talked about this with Myles Garrett since the inception of LockOn Browns, is putting players around Myles Garrett who are assignment-driven players, which allows Myles to just go as hard as he can. And if somebody's going to set the edge on the other side, the reason that is such a smart and needed thing within any defense that involves Myles Garrett is because Myles Garrett can run guys down from the backside. So if your ball side defensive end is doing his assignment, it allows the greatness of Myles Garrett to cash in even more. Alex Wright can play inside, can play outside. This was something he did in his days all the way back at UAB. He was the best defensive player they had overall, so they used him inside, they used him outside. Alex Wright is an intelligent player. He knows his length. He knows his size. He will clog passing lanes if he cannot get penetration. He plays with an overall athleticism / intelligence that you look for in modern day defensive line play. You're not always going to get home. Very few players get 17, 18, 19 sacks a year. Right now, that is not Alex Wright's game. But Alex is smart enough to accept and understand when he's not going to get home and still have a way and an effort to try to still impact a play. Alex Wright was a revelation in year two. Alex Wright has the opportunity to be, in my opinion, possibly a starter for this team in 2024. The Browns may view it differently. I do believe they will invest in another veteran, but I think Alex Wright is honed and shined in and locked in to be a big-time contributor for the Cleveland Browns in the 2024 season. His work ethic has shown, able to contribute as a rookie, able to contribute a lot more in year two. You have to think with one more strong season, watching film, understanding himself, getting his body to optimum shape, Alex Wright could be a breakout player for the Cleveland Browns in 2024. The defensive tackle room overall was a big step in the right direction for the Cleveland Browns in 2023. The signing, of course, of Dalvin Tomlinson, the underrated, sneaky signing and return of Maurice Hurst, unfortunately a free agent. Injury, and Pete Smith and I have talked about this a lot. The injury may have helped the Cleveland Browns in bringing Maurice Hurst back. Maurice Hurst was a revelation for the Browns in 2023. Browns hopefully can continue that relationship. Jordan Elliott, I didn't think Jordan Elliott would make 4 years with the Cleveland Browns. So now that he's here at free agency, do I think he's going to stay with the Cleveland Browns? Probably not. But the Browns have kind of felt 180 degrees difference than all of us have about Jordan Elliott over 4 years. So we'll see how it works out there. And now that leaves draft pick from 2023, Siaki Ika. Siaki Ika the playing time was never there. Obviously, injuries early in camp, missed time. And then with all of the other guys in front of him, the Browns most weeks opted to dress 4 defensive tackles, 5 defensive ends. And for most weeks, that left Siaki Ika as the odd man out. Needs to find what is a comfortable playing weight for him that he can maintain, where he can be effective for the Cleveland Browns. And it's going to be on him. He needs to have a strong offseason. There is only one other legit defensive tackle under contract for this team, and that man is not going to be challenged in any way whatsoever in Dawand Tomlinson. But Siaki Ika, the Browns are looking for this guy who can also contribute in early down run scenarios, be a plugger, be a guy that absorbs blocking, take on double teams, allow Dawand Tomlinson to be a little bit more of a playmaker, keep JOK and what other linebackers are playing with him clean. It's a big offseason for Siaki Ika. And I'm not saying he can change the trajectory for himself, because the Browns are going to be heavily invested. They are most likely going to bring in a veteran, most likely going to be looking to draft. Otherwise, I mean, you could be bringing back Shelby Harris. You could be bringing back Maurice Hurst, which could put Siaki Ika in that unfavorable position where he could be the 4th or 5th defensive tackle. He needs to find a way to determine his worth to this team. He needs to find a way to determine his playing time with this team. It is a big offseason for the big fella, Siaki Ika. Now, I do believe Anthony Walker's time with the Cleveland Browns is over. It is not that anything that Anthony Walker did here was not appreciated and needed. Anthony Walker, I think the body is starting to fail him. It sucks. Straight up sucks. The guy's put out a ton of effort, but injury after injury after injury just makes it in a really, really tough spot. Now you look, Sione Takitaki, I would gladly bring Sione Takitaki back. Question is going to be for Sione is, what is his worth on the open market? We know the Browns, and they kind of like to be fiscally smart at the linebacker position. So if there starts to be a bidding war for a player like Sione Takitaki, Sione. It's been a rough few years. I don't know if the Browns are necessarily going to entertain that. So that puts you in a position of Tony Fields and Mahmoud Diabate. I'm going to put Mahmoud Diabate here. He was a top shelf athlete last year in the draft process. Undrafted free agent, came to the Cleveland Browns, showed extremely well on special teams, played extremely well in the preseason. Former Florida Gator, former Utah Ute. Diabate can play. And the Browns always trying to find a way to save a couple of shekels so you can pay some of these other guys some big time salaries. Have a guy like Diabate who is on an undrafted free agent deal. If he can find a way to get to significant playing time, it would be a big win for the Cleveland Browns. Browns need these guys to step up. You can't get everything done in the offseason through trades, free agency, and the draft. Some of your own guys have to develop. And the guys we mentioned here today, it's time for them to start to develop. We're going to continue here, your latest Locked On Browns. I got some thoughts on this year's running back class. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Everybody stick along for the ride. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns, your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate you all who come out and make Locked On Browns your first listen every day. The everyday crowd, if you ain't in by now, will get on the bus, hit the subscribe button, and you are in. Show's always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, as I've told you the situation here, and I've had a lot of time to digest some film here this week while playing nursemaid to my beautiful wife Anne Marie. There has been for me a lot of time spent this week watching this 2024 running back class. It is not a headline class. I'm not necessarily sure we will even have more than 2 running backs drafted in the second round. I would think the sweet spot is probably going to be that 3rd into 4th round. It's not that it's a bad class. It just lacks the headline. It just lacks the top, headline stars that some classes. There is no Bijan Robinson in this class. But what I've watched, what I've gathered here now, most people's number one consensus back, and obviously I know this player well, as many people. I got called an Ohio State homer yesterday. It's never been the case. I have no problems with Ohio State. But you guys know I've always kind of been a Florida State fan. Trey Benson, running back from Florida State, is a great game. I think he would be a fit for the Cleveland Browns. Has good vision, runs with power. As he takes on tacklers, he does not lose power. He's not somebody that loses and goes down to the first tackler. He doesn't have great speed, but he does have long speed. Couple issues as far as what the Cleveland Browns would look for. Age probably is not going to be in their wheelhouse. Injury history is probably something that's not going to be ideally in the wheelhouse for the Cleveland Browns. Trey Benson is a player I like. I think he would fit here. But the Browns, and the way they work as far as some of these numbers, some of the age, some of these things, they're big, big factors to the Cleveland Browns. So Trey Benson, I might be in. I'm not sure the Brass and Berea would be. Jordan Brooks out of Texas. Great player. Underestimated in pass pro. But the problem when you look at this running back is the Cleveland Browns are dealing with an issue with Nick Chubb. Again, we have no idea what Nick Chubb is going to bring to this franchise in 2024. Brooks is coming off an ACL injury himself. So you are looking at that running back room with the understanding that 2 guys are trying to return in 2024 coming off significant injury. One, we're not sure when he's going to be ready. And Brooks, as a rookie, you would have to be really, really careful because most likely in the spring and the summer, he would be on a pitch count as far as practices. How much can he put on his plate? How much can he be relied upon? So Brooks, that's a tricky situation. You really can't have 2 running backs coming back from serious injuries. Bucky Irving, I like. Age, he fits what the Browns like. Pac-12 defenses are garbage. Bucky Irving is impressive to watch, but a lot of it is 7-8 yards before he's even seeing a defender. I'm not sure how that's going to play in the NFL. Like Bucky Irving, just not sure how it's going to work out. This is where I get to the 2 guys that I think will absolutely be the belle of the ball for the Cleveland Browns front office as far as the running back position is concerned. Braylon Allen, Wisconsin. Braylon Allen will play his entire 2024 regular season in the NFL at 20 years old. At 20 years old, he will play his entire regular season of his rookie year. 6'2", right around 240. He's not a speedster, but kind of got that Derrick Henry type of thing to him. Moves well, doesn't lose balance, maintains balance through contact, drags defenders, had a 96-yard touchdown run while I was at Wisconsin. Braylon Allen is probably something that would really, really fit. And the thing is, big back can handle, a pretty good amount of workload early on as Nick Chubb either waits to get in the rotation or is slowly worked into the rotation. You can still keep Jerome Ford around. Jerome does some nice things. I'm not sure you can think that he is going to be a true number 1, but he does have that receiving aspect. Audric Estime, Notre Dame, same type of build as Allen. He's got some hurdling ability. There's a run versus Clemson where he's jumping over a guy at the line of scrimmage, finishing the run by jumping over a safety who tries to go low on him. Good player. Almost 2,500 yards in his time running for the Fighting Irish. Another guy will be 21 in September. Things like that have the Cleveland Browns front office always giddy. These are the guys they're looking for. Some late day guys. Kendall Milton from Georgia. Solid running back. Nothing too flashy. This is somebody the Browns can get on day 3. Myron Williams, Ohio State. One cut and go type of runner. has some physicality to him, runs well, not afraid of the big stage. Certainly somebody that could have some appeal for the Cleveland Browns. One last one, and this one going to be a sleeper, I'm sure, to most of you, from my alma mater, Monmouth University here in New Jersey, Jaden Sheridan. 2 years ago, won the Walter Payton Award for his level of NCAA play, put together 2 straight fantastic seasons in West Long Branch for the Hawks. Jaden Sheridan is a player, and he is a quiet name at this point. He can go into the combine where he is going to put together a really strong workout and make a big name for himself. Jaden Sheridan, somebody that could go on day 3, could be an undrafted free agent, but a name to watch. Just some thoughts here on the 2024 running back class. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. As you all know, we are 7 seasons in, transitioning to season 8 here at LockOn Browns. I appreciate every one of you who come out every day, make LockOn Browns your first listen. The everyday crowd, the numbers keep getting higher and higher. So, man, if you ain't in by now, that's on you. Subscribe to LockOn Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to continue pumping stuff out. We're trying to go an episode a day here. A couple of weeks we got the combine, which leads right then into free agency. And then before you know it, it's going to be about 5 weeks of nothing but NFL draft coverage here on LockOn Browns. Don't go anywhere. Subscribe. Make sure you hit that button. And I appreciate each and every one of you. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.